Hello, and thank you for joining us again at our BNI San Diego podcast. Now, if you remember from last week, we are actually live at the BNI National Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm actually sitting here with a very good friend of mine, Kip Kint from BNI Utah, Executive Director. How long have you been an Executive Director now?
Since 2012.
And how are you enjoying it?
It's changed my life.
Yeah.
I love it.
And you know, the cool thing about what you just said is it actually allows us to change a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
A lot of homes, a lot of professionals. We get to do some really good stuff. So Kip, what are we talking about today?
So I think today it might be helpful for your listeners if we talk a little bit about things that are difficult or not difficult.
Okay.
Things that are worth it or not worth
Ooh, interesting.
It.
With the
it. What is it? Right?
Okay.
So listen, if you want to dive right into it,
Absolutely.
right?
Let's go.
Let's talk about the time, the effort, the energy, the angst, the work, that's the it.
So is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Is it worth doing all of that, and the time and the effort and the energy and all those things? Is it worth it?
Okay.
Or is it not worth it? And if you imagine this in a quadrant, right? And so in the top left, you've got things that are not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're difficult.
Oof.
So think about those two things. It's really, really hard and it's not worth it.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you, Ed, if it's really, really hard and it's not worth it, what should you do about it?
It shouldn't even be on my list.
Don't even do it, right?
Okay. Don't even do it.
It's like not even a second thought. And then let's take something that is, it's still not worth it, but it's easy. It's like a snap. It's like a few minutes of your time. It's, whatever. So, easy and not worth it. What should you do?
So I shouldn't be doing it. However, I think I get caught up in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I get caught up in the mundane things that someone else should be doing that I shouldn't be doing.
Especially if, whether consciously or subconsciously, we feel we derive value from busyness, from being active and engaged and so forth. And so we kind of get sucked into doing some of those things that are easy just because they're easy. You can check them off your list, but it's still not worth it.
So very true.
Yeah. So let's stay down there on that level where it's easy.
Okay.
So now we're going down to the bottom right-hand corner. It's easy and it's worth it. What do you think? What would you do with something that's easy and it's worth it?
I would love more of those things. I'd be doing those, no problem.
Yeah. Should you sweat it? Should you worry about it?
No, it should just be something that just is automatic.
It's easy, right?
Yeah.
So it's not worth any extra angst or any extra, worry or anything like that. But you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's worth it. Okay. So the crux of all of this is that quadrant where you have something that is difficult.
Okay.
And it's worth it. It's worth it. The time, the effort, the energy, whatever it's going to take to get it done. But it's hard. So what do you do? Because these are the ones that we often shy away from. What are you going to do with that?
You got to work through it because at least what I'm thinking about is that to me is the working on the business. And
in that context, I mean, often those are the things that they're maybe not as urgent, they're things that would be easily, I gotta put my time and effort somewhere else. Yeah. And it maybe takes a little more mental energy, a little more emotional energy. Yeah. It's difficult. I'm a big believer in telling the truth. So this is what I say to my coaching clients. If it is both difficult and worth it, let's start with the difficulty.
Okay.
And articulate it. See if you could go a minute, 2 minutes, and put out every description you can think of about how difficult it is, but you're not allowed to repeat yourself. Not one time. And as soon as you have a lull in articulating that, and you then find yourself unable to come up with anything else about how hard it is, about how tough it's going to be, then that's it. You have expressed the truth. You should always tell the truth. How hard is it going to be? Once you have articulated that fully, how hard it is, then you go back and you ask yourself, is it worth it. Is this thing and the value that I would derive or the value that it would bring to other people, is it worth all of the things that I just articulated about how hard it's going to be?
Ooh.
And if it is, then you don't ever talk about how hard it's going to be ever again.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because you've already fully articulated the difficulty and surmised it's worth it. And so now I'm going to focus on the worth. Because my language, both externally to others and internally in my own heart and mind, is going to make a difference. Because if I say that it's difficult, and I say it again, and I say it again, and I say it again, what I end up saying is it's too difficult. And the language morphs into it's too difficult. And what is the time and effort and energy that I'm going to put in to something that I'm starting to convince myself it's too difficult?
You talk yourself out of it.
Even though you just articulated that it was worth it, you will talk yourself out of it. So the focus has to switch to it is worth it. It's worth every ounce of angst and trouble and effort that it's going to require. And so now I'm going to focus on the worth, the value, the outcome, the impact.
Wow.
And the more you focus on that, you will put in the extra effort and energy that you need in order to accomplish it.
And you need to find out what, I would imagine, you've got to really take time to find out what that it is. Right?
Well, yeah, and contextually, right? I mean, it could be related to business. It could be related to personal. Like, let's say, I have a goal that I want to run a half marathon in less than 2 hours.
Okay.
And I come up with my why. Simon Sinek, Start With Why.
Yeah.
Great book, right? I come up with my why, and I've set this goal that I want to run a half marathon in less than 2 hours. It's going to be hard. By the way, I can tell you from experience that I ran a half marathon once. It's not actually a goal of mine anymore, but I did it, and it was really hard. I don't think I would have accomplished it if I hadn't kept focusing on the worth and the value that I had placed on that thing. But it could also be something related to your business or BNI. Let's say you're part of a 19-member BNI chapter, and you want to expand the number of quality referral partners in that chapter to 50. Like that's, pushing near to triple. There's going to be a lot of effort and energy that has to go into something like that. Is it worth it to get there? So does that mean it really coming down to articulating what the it is? Is it financial success? Is it taking care of family? What's that big desire that you want? Right? Right. Is the outcome of high enough value to you and to others around you? That's the first it. Is it worth it? The effort, the energy that it's going to require to get there. So let me ask you, as a business owner, you're a BNI executive director. You own the franchise for Utah. What has been something that you've kind of worked through this process with? Well, one of the things is, chapter launch. That was a big thing for us. When I first started, running this particular region back in 2012, we had a handful of chapters, five chapters or so. And I knew that we were in one of the fastest growing economic regions in the United States, and that the people were underserved in the region, that we needed more chapters, more realtors, more mortgage people, more folks that couldn't get into the existing chapters. So how were we going to build more chapters? And technically, we were classified as a small region. We had to get out of the limited paradigm and realize it could be much bigger than we might have ever imagined. So we had to get out of our own way. And so we had to make sure that the accomplishment of establishing new chapters, multiple new chapters, and the impact on economy and people's lives and so forth, that it was worth it, which was the effort and the energy, which is not easy to start a brand new BNI chapter. And ultimately, it was worth it. I love that the wording you're using, the imagery that you're using, because we all have things in our lives, whether it's on the business side or the personal side. Maybe it's a husband and wife deciding if they're going to have kids now or later. That's a great example, right? is it worth it? And what are you going to have to sacrifice if you're going to do it in the short term? What are you sacrificing if you put it off and you do it more in the long term?
Ooh.
Right? So you still have to consider both sides of every equation, but ultimately, is the value derived worth the effort expended? That's probably the most succinct way I could put it in wrapping it up. Is the value that's derived or will be derived worth the effort expended? Is it worth it?
And sometimes that it is not now. It could be it could be that very same thing, but at a different time.
Yeah, which then would free you up to focus on some other it that's worth it right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Kip, thank you so much. This has been some, even just that mindset, the paradigm shifts that we think about things, right? And how we're developing, it, again, going back to is it worth it?
Right.
For some people, it's having, I guess another way to put it is, is your why big enough? Is it strong enough? Is your it big enough, strong enough to, get you through the hard stuff?
Right. The stronger your why,
the
the more powerful your execution and your ability to overcome whatever obstacles might prevent you from achieving the thing that you have your strong why for.
Kip, thank you so much. This has been a phenomenal topic. I'm looking forward to actually even delving into this a little bit more with you, because let's face it, as business owners, whether it's on the business side or the personal side, we all have these things that we have to tackle and go through. And sometimes the it is just getting started.
That's it. Overcoming inertia, which is where the most energy is expended to even take a giant boulder, right? To even get the boulder to move an inch, and so much less energy to keep it moving the second inch and then the foot and the yard and the mile. Overcoming that inertia.
Whoa.
That's the key.
There it is, people.
Yeah.
Right here live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Kip, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
I'm looking forward to having you back again. I know there's a ton of topics that we could go over. For our listeners, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week for another wonderful podcast and another fantastic guest. Again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
This episode of the BNI San Diego Podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.